Silence, Earthling.
This is my Range Rover. I've wasted 5 years waiting for the perfect time to start a restoration. Well, I'm going for it, and you're going to see every step of the process in detail. I'm not a mechanic or a panel beater, I'm just a guy who loves to drive, and I have to save the car that's been more like a partner in crime than just four wheels. And while I'm at it, there's a little something else in the picture. Okay, there's two more, and yes, I have an addiction, but what the hell, if I don't kill myself, it could just work out great. And the road awaits. Okay, I'm back, just about. The wheels nearly came off this one. Now, I'm going to talk to you about the gear, the getup in a second, but before I do, some of you guys have been in touch in comments and you know, on forums and stuff, and just hearing what you're telling me is music to my ears. David Coleman is getting to work on his 1275 GT Mini. I used to have one of those, it got away and I want to get it back. Lone Rangey is about to make a start on his 74 bus. I think he's waiting for me to show my bus footage. I'm bringing that to you, buddy, ASAP. Mark Holtham has begun on his Mark II Golf GTI. Mark T has started on his Turbo Esprit. And I hear two pals of mine, a guy called Jeff and another guy called Kieran, they're both clearing out garages and sheds. Jeff doesn't know what he's going to buy yet, which is exciting. And Kieran has a Defender that's been at the bottom of his garden for years, and I've been at him about it. So keep that stuff coming. It's just, that gets me motivated and inspired to keep going as well. Now, the gear. This is a ditch kit of tools I put together way back when I started traveling in the Range Rover, and frankly I haven't added to it since. These are the tools I use day to day to work on my cars. Yes, I have a torque wrench, I have a trolley jack, I have a hoist outside of this, but really these are the ones that get used. Slightly less obvious are the inspection mirror, the very simple cheap 12 volt circuit tester. There is a circuit pliers, a universal one with many heads, and there are TX and hex drives just specific to the sizes on the Range Rover. Now all of this fits in this little toolbox here. It's I think about 18 inches by about 6 inches deep. It's really neat. In there are some needles, there's some lighters, there are little bits of sandpaper, and what's missing? Oh yeah, a magnet, a telescopic magnet. This thing will stop you from self-harming when you've dropped that thing down the little gap that your big fat hands won't fit into. And this is it. There's no big fancy roller cabinet. These are my tools. I have a pair of socket sets, I have all the safety gear, very important, a decent hammer, 2 angle grinders, and a power file, a finger sander. Okay, just before we go into the Esprit, the last things I want to talk to you about are these overalls and the welding gear. These came with a boat, and I don't know where the boat is, but I treasure these things because they get me up in the morning. They're lined, they're insulated. They're also very heavy duty. They come from a very good brand. I think they'd cost about 200 quid to replace, but you'd know it in the quality. They've proven to be pretty much grinder proof and weld proof to a point, obviously. I mean, not doing anything silly. And they get me up in the morning because I know I can put these on. They're made for a bigger guy than me, but I found that to be brilliant because they'll go over any pair of shoes or boots, they'll go over whatever I'm wearing, and I know 2 or 3 minutes later I will be toasty and never think about my temperature again. And I've worked in the depths of winter with these things. I'd highly recommend quilted overalls, they're just the tops. This welder is identical to the yellow one you will see in the footage of the Range Rover. I couldn't afford another welder, so I posted the yellow one to Greece, and that's what I'm using now to work on the van. This one is 25 to 130 amp. They're both 25 to 130 amp. I couldn't replace that. Try and find a welder for less than 300 or 400 quid with that kind of range. I couldn't, and I found this for 150 with a spare mask and some spare rolls of wire. They're messy, the wire feed is weak, they're awkward to use, but I have tested my welds. You guys have been very polite. You're gonna have to take my word for it. The welds are strong, they're just ugly. And I should point out, the Range Rover has always worked. It's not supposed to be a restoration, it's a resurrection. It's a rescue, essentially, from the scrapyard. It will show its scars unless I decide in 5 or 10 years time I'm going to do a proper restoration on it, which I may well do. But for now, that's just get it done and get it out and maybe get it under me so I have something to drive. I am not driving, by the way. I haven't driven in about a year. I borrow cars, I just don't have one of my own, even though I have 7. I have nothing on the road. So anyway, all that said, let's go and look at the Esprit. Okay, things are really moving along with the Esprit. We were just about ready to get the dashboard out the last time, and it became obvious there was a real sequence to this. I thought it was initially that the bulkhead trim had to come out, then the center console, but in fact, to even get the bulkhead trim out, I had to release the seat belts. Then the bulkhead trim came out, and what did I find? A center punch, new tools, and this is a real treat. But what I got very excited about was the prospect of the weight that this represents not being in the car when all is said and done. I've got it bad. So the trim came out, then the center console came out, and then the dash was a cinch to come out. Aside from the interior courtesy light switches, I couldn't get them to budge, so I just pulled the wires off the back of them. You're left with this padded section underneath the windscreen, and there was this one tab down the middle of it. I've no idea why it's there, but of course the screw was seized, so that had to be ground out, and then the material pulled out very easy. The upholstery is a really good job, like I said before. It's foam backed fabric. It's not very nice fabric, but it's foam backed, and then that in turn is backed onto this kind of ticking. It's a backing material and glued down. It came out very easy. You can see it here in the 3 sections. It's not rust you're seeing here, it's the remains of the glue, which is fantastic news because these panels, like I said before, are known to rust out. So onto the handbrake, and it's a weak point in the car. They're known in these early cars to work their way loose from all the wear and tear. This one is no exception, and we will make a modification to strengthen all this up. There's no purchase on it whatsoever. There's the old stereo. Again, not the right one, but an interesting unit. And here's that bulkhead trim panel. Now look what I found in the cubby box. Somebody was obviously having a lot of fun with the James Bond music and the white car and doing the whole bit. Unfortunately, the cassette's not there, but there you go. The inlay is there and it's interesting to see. The whole James Bond thing, yeah, it's appealing and it really is a fond memory from my childhood, but it's not the real reason I'm into this car. Tucked away in a corner, I found a few little bits and pieces. This black thing, I can't place it. Maybe it'll turn up missing somewhere and I'll recognize it then, but for now it's a bit of a mystery. There was mastic in the near side still. It was obviously to hold in the trim panel. It didn't work, and it's that horrible stuff that never goes off. There's an aftermarket Kenlo fan in the car, it's just a lovely period switch, and maybe I'll reuse it or find a funky use for it. I'll cross that bridge later on. I shouldn't have teased the mouse. He's been gnawing on the wires for the window lift switches. I'd love to know if you can get a stock of colour-coded wire. I'll look into that. See if I can do an imperceivable repair on this. So the carpets came out. Most of the interior is gone now, bar the pedal box and a little bit of trim on the near side. Tucked underneath the wiper motor is a piece of original carpet, which is just great to have. We'll use that as reference. I'm going to leave it there. There's a few bits left, like I said. We'll pull those out next time and then move right onto the back of the car. Okay, more Esprit next time. Maybe not the time after that, because the next couple of episodes are coming to you from Greece and we will see how the production fares overseas. Before we talk about the Range Rover, I want to tell you something that I haven't mentioned yet, which is that each of these cars, not the Vogue, but the other Range Rover, this Esprit and the bus, will all get a grand tour, a celebration of their completion, a road trip, a big one. And the first leg of the Esprit's road trip will be to pick up my buddy Hadley and take him to the Brands Hatch Lotus Festival, which is an annual thing organised by Bibs at the Lotus Forums. And the reason why I will be doing that is because Hadley is just tied to, he is the reason I'm able to have this car. So I want to just spend 2 minutes telling you about the story of how I ended up with it, how I met Hadley and how I got this car. Well, this is the bromance bit. Hadley walked into a pie shop I was working in Amsterdam, and I was projecting these surf movies up on the wall, and he said, "Hey, you're a surfer?" I said, "Yeah, I'm a surfer." So we got talking, and in the course of that conversation, a very surreal conversation, it went from Hadley having been the product manager for Yamaha Motorcycles Europe to being told he had MS, that he couldn't drive, he couldn't keep his job, and from there to him telling me that he had an Esprit. And I told him straight out, if you're ever going to sell it, please give me first refusals, and he didn't react. And I just remember thinking, you're never going to hear about that car again. But Hadley and I have stayed close friends ever since. And about 6 years later, I get a phone call, normal phone call from Hads. And at the end of the call, very matter of fact, as is his style, he says, hey, the folks want their garage back. Do you want the Esprit? And I spent the next couple of months selling off everything so I could buy this Esprit. And when I finally got over in June 15 to get the car, I met Hadley's family, who put on this amazing day. They produced this Roadster as a surprise that they had, and we worked on it all day. The Esprit did not get a look in. Now, Hadley has reinvented himself time and again, and this is the thing about him. He's such an inspirational guy. You know, he's never grumbled about the fact that, you know, the things that he's always wanted to do consistently kind of seem to get taken away. So I think that it's only fitting that the first thing that the Esprit does when it's reinvented is picks up its old master and takes him on a weekend of motoring fun. And now it's time for some Range Rover. Well, you remember last time I showed you this repair to the rear seat base. I realized I hadn't shown you what it was like before, so here it is. It was pretty bad. These clamps, by the way, are borrowed, just in case you think I'm holding out on you. I thought I might be able to actually make this in one single repair panel, and I was wrong. It didn't work. I had to make two, as you have seen. So anyway, I said we'd go to the rear arch, and here it is. It was rotten all the way back. So the first thing I did was clean up the rear of it and let in some new steel. I wanted to make sure the rear and the fore sections were solid before I tackled the middle, because the middle bit really is a large portion that I had to cut out. So here's more welds that are very, very not pretty, but they are strong. The bottom of the C-pillar was pretty bad too. I cleaned that up, and you'll see a repair I made to that in a second, or at least the panel I made. Okay, then I moved to the fore section of the arch, and the one panel you saw last week, I welded that in and I made this new kind of slightly upper panel, and these I did grind back the welds on, and they are very neat. And this repair in general is actually quite, not 100%, but very close to how it was originally. I'm quite proud of it. It does look good. So the next thing was to clean up some of the previous welds, which I did in preparation for cutting out that middle section and making a template. This is another case where the upper inner arch is available as a repair panel, the whole thing, this large section I'm about to fix. So then out the middle section came, and I started making my cardboard templates, and this is the prefabricated outer arch that I bought, just test fitted, and there's the new steel in, and there's that C-pillar bottom repair. Now this is the inside of the C-pillar. It needed a repair too. It was rotten all the way through. I started making templates for the lip that I'll have to make up to attach that outer arch panel. The old trick there of using masking tape to cut a line. And that's it for now. I think I put the C panel back up to test fit and start measuring for the lip, and we'll leave it there and pick it up where I make a lip for that panel next time. It's quite a while back that I promised you a Mirafiori. Well, today's the day. I met Sid quite a while back at one of the meets, and his Mirafiori was you could just tell straight away that car has been perfectly restored. Since then, I went to try and get some more footage and sit down with him. I actually ended up spending almost as much time talking about his amazing collection of Sex Pistols vinyl as we did about cars. It rained as soon as I got there. Now, he wasn't offering to take it out, and I wasn't asking, so good enough. I'm going to lean on the footage I took the first time I met him. Here's Sid, and here's this amazing Mirafiori.
Was pulled out of the yard in Dublin. It's just, we went up to look at it. In Navan, I knew the guy that bought it. I opened the door and the door fell off onto the ground. 8 posts and all with it. I just said to him, if you don't do it, he says, give me first refusal. 6 months later, I had it.
Well, Sid didn't waste any time, and when he started showing me photographs of the build, of the restoration, my mind was blown. There isn't a section of this car, there isn't a square inch that I don't think he's attended to. He cut out everything, and he practically disassembled the car. To just see this level, this is the type of level I would aspire to restoring a car to. I don't have the setup or the tools yet, but this is where I want to be. So then he told me about trying to get panels.
I got a lot of stuff out of Turkey. All the outer panels are all genuine Fiat. They were new doors, new old stock. Can't remember. I got them. I got several sets. You take the skins off and they're all rotten in underneath. So you have to repair the frame and then put a new skin on. New quarter panels, new inner tubs, outer tubs, floor.
Now let's just take a second to look at these doors. These are new old stock doors, and you'd assume to just take a part like this and paint it up and put it on the car, but that wasn't good enough for Sid. They just weren't good enough. So let's just take a second to soak in the level of detail, the attention that he gave to these doors. Just look at this thing. So we got to find out how long something like this takes. Here's what Sid had to say.
Yeah, original. All chassis numbers, everything's correct.
So it's an Irish car. How long did it take you?
Almost 6 years.
And what kind of time, like let's say weekly?
Well, oh God, weeks. You'd be definitely doing 20 hours a week. So there was nothing, everything's new.
And would you have been religious about the 20 hours a week?
Oh no, never. You walk away from it and it pisses you off,
Yeah.
and something won't fit.
Now this Mirafiori screams Sid, but one of the most interesting Fiat items on the car are the factory toweling seat covers. And Sid managed to find an original one, but not a word to the missus.
So it's embossed into it.
They're the reproductions.
They're the reproductions that's in the car. This is the real deal.
Say that'd be fought over, would it?
Well, I paid pounds for it, and there was a load of people bidding, and I one woman killed me. One I didn't have.
There was a woman bidding on it.
Oh, my woman that killed me.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. So I have that. Gives you all the colours.
This is one purring Mirafiori. It runs like a dream. He did have twin 40s on it, but he opted to go back to the single original carb. Now when I got to his garage and I took a peek inside, I found that he has something else lurking there that we're probably going to have to go back and have a look at some stage. In the meantime, here's a few words from Sid on Originality.
What the f is original on a 37-year-old Fiat that when they were 5 years old, most of them were scrap, rotting away with rust. Engines and gearboxes lived, back axles were made of chocolate, paint fell off them, go rotten in the showroom, and then there's this, hand built here in Ireland, hence this.
I love Sid Mirafiori. I'll make no bones about that. I think the first thing I did when I met him was get him to take me for a spin around the car park. You can just hear this car is fun. Just enough power up front and a limited slip diff in the rear. Yeah, this thing's got to be a hell of a lot of fun. Now I'm going to leave you with a few shots of myself and Sid just tootling around the car park. But before I do, I had to tease him just a little bit about his Sex Pistols addiction.
Oh, the Sex Pistols touched every car. Have to have a favourite band, you know.
But you're very short of material though, it's just one album.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. I should look at what it done. It's all across. Without the Pistols, what would you not have? Shut up.
Okay, episode 4 in the bank. Now, here we go. My new patrons. Tony Daly, Barry Doolan, Ger Neeson, Ollie Soden, Andy Mason, David Clayton, Percy and Anna. I don't know what to say, except thank you very much. Patreon is a way of saying, I love what you're doing. I really want to make sure that you keep doing what you're doing. So here's a few quid, 1 or 2. And that is literally all it is, 1 or 2 quid, whatever you want. Patreon is a safe way of giving me some patronage. It won't be forever, but the link is in the description. And yeah, thank you, you guys, amazing. Subscribing, I'm learning about this now. Some of you aren't getting notifications that I've put new content up. Well, I went to research this and here it is on screen. If you go to a channel that you've subscribed to, beside the subscribe button, you'll see a little bell. That bell, click it, and the pop-up that will come up, there's a tick box, and you tick that box and then you will get email notifications. It seems crazy, but hey, that's what's happening to some people. So there you go. The little bell beside the subscribe button, that's what you need to look for. Like I said, next time we will be in Greece. I am looking forward to it because I'll be able to swim and have some sun and all that kind of thing and get lots of work done on the van. But I am fearful for the good of the series because, well, it's untried and untested in Greece, this production, which, like I said, takes a little bit of doing. So let's see what happens. You know, bear with me and I will be back to you sooner rather than later, hopefully. Until then, good luck.